Welcome to our webinar on easily and affordably replacing InfoPath forms with Use Nitro Studio. I am Scott Restivo, President, Founder, CEO of Croquet Software. I'm joined by James, who just jumped in commenting about screen sharing, and also we'll be answering questions. As I mentioned, there's a question box inside the GoToWebinar screen, and we'll attempt to answer those questions during the webinar, but if not, then we'll get to them afterwards. Croquet Software has been around 22 years, since 1999. We are in the Microsoft collaboration space. We started out in the Exchange, Outlook, public folders world. And when SharePoint came out some 20 years ago or so, but more as it developed in 2007, 2010 versions, we jumped on the SharePoint train and started building our applications in that with the many new and cool features that were in SharePoint. And we've continued that with SharePoint 2013, 2016, 2019. And now, of course, the last 5 or so years with Office 365 and now Teams, and we're doing things with bots. We're a Microsoft preferred partner. We have been for many years, also a California certified small business. We have headquarters in California and in Rhode Island. And what we do is we have our Nitro business applications. We have our Nitro Studio, which we'll cover today. We build custom solutions, and we do AI and bot services, which is a growing part of our business. So we're well experienced and been in this world for quite some time. As far as InfoPath goes, we're considered InfoPath replacement experts because we've been doing this for so many years. We realized InfoPath was deprecated some time ago. In 2013, actually, Microsoft stopped developing of it. And at that time, people came to us asking how they can move off of InfoPath, and very slowly at first. And now, of course, it's accelerating much, much more to this. And we have years of experience. We developed a complete package of tools. We have a support team that's very familiar with InfoPath replacement and the tips, the twists and turns of that. And we have developed many free resources for InfoPath, meaning we're invested in our customer success in this level. Now, we'll be talking about our Nitro Studio. That's that symbol here in the triangle is our logo for it, and that's our Nitro Studio as a InfoPath replacement tool. We'll go into that a little more and show you some of that today, how that can be used and has been used by our customers to replace InfoPath forms, as well as other forms too, not just InfoPath, but also Access forms and Lotus Notes and even spreadsheets, paper forms. So it's not just InfoPath, but it is part of it. So we have a large number of resources that we can on our website. You can go to our website here. I'll drag it over here, or just to show you. So there's a number of resources on just Croquet Software. Croquet.com is the website. InfoPath replacement. Of course, there's other Nitro Application Studio, but InfoPath replacement. We have our overview, our guide. You can get our ebook. You can. We'll talk about our InfoPath replacement manager in a moment. So we have a lot of resources on InfoPath replacement and videos, case studies, these kind of things going on here. And okay, stop that for a second. So we've been saying it's time to replace InfoPath for quite some time, and we've developed many resources over the years to do that. Let me get that out of the way, and get that down here. And we also have many tools, so several tools. We have the Nitro Studio, which is a very extensive forms workflow application creation that's used to build our applications. We use it to build our applications, totally developed by us. It runs in SharePoint 2013, 2016, 2019 on premises, and very much in Office 365 and Microsoft Teams. We're doing a lot with Teams integration and bots in the Office 365. So it's a fully comprehensive tool. If you're on SharePoint on premises, it's the primary tool you want to get because there is no alternative. There's other tools on Office 365, but we feel we really provide a great solution for both Office 365 and the SharePoint on premises. We also developed a project manager for InfoPath replacement projects, and we have scripts and other resources. But first, I'm going to start with a brief, and this will be a brief history of InfoPath, just to give a background on how it's been deprecated and why. Okay, so if you look at this timeline, this is an interesting timeline, and we won't spend too much time on it, but here you can see that InfoPath was first developed in 2003. The important point here to notice is that it was before the iPhone, before mobile became so prominent and smartphones and people doing things on their smartphones. In other words, the good old days before smartphones, so to speak. Anyway, we all have them now, and but InfoPath was developed before that. And also before cloud services, such as Amazon Web Services and Azure, and well before Office 365. You can see that InfoPath kind of went through a process. It was good at the time, but it wasn't able to keep up with the changes that was going on in technology. Technology moves very fast. In 10 years from 2003 to 2013, saw a lot of many changes, cloud, mobile really coming into prominence. And Microsoft decided to end development at that point because they couldn't keep up with that old technology. You couldn't keep reviving that old technology. It's kind of like 8-track cassette tapes or something like that. You know, it's just time to let it go. VCRs and that kind of stuff. So let's look at this here. InfoPath 2010, Main Street support has ended and extended support ended, just like last year, in October last year. InfoPath 2013, Main Street support will end in just a few months. July, I mean, here it is April already, so it's only 3 months, I guess. But it's going to end, and then extended support ends also. Extended support just means that Microsoft will provide security fixes, no updates, no anything like that. So, just giving you a background on that. What? Breaking news? What's this? Okay, what's going on here? InfoPath 20 come out with new version of InfoPath. Sorry. Oh, okay. Marketing people. Oh God, the marketing people were playing April Fools here. They said they were. Jocelyn said she's going to have this last minute tweak to the PowerPoint, and I'm like, okay. No, okay, they got me on that one. It is April Fool's Day after all. I'm sure that
that's a pretty good one.
Yeah. All right, moving right along. A good one. I give them credit for being a little creative on this. Thank you, John. Okay. No, InfoPath 2022 has not been announced. It's actually been, the deadline I showed you earlier is right, that Main Street support will end in July of 2021, just a few months, and extended support will end in 12, a few years later, 5 years later. But it really doesn't mean much, extended support. The time to get off InfoPath is now. I get my balance back here. It is April Fool's Day, right? Whatever. You have some fun. Okay. Let's see. Why did Microsoft deprecate InfoPath? Well, many reasons, as I mentioned. It's not mobile or cloud friendly. The browsers have moved ahead with full speed. I don't think Edge was even out in 2013 in that time, but now Edge is, and many of the latest technologies as far as HTML and CSS are not in there. InfoPath uses the older XSN, XML type technology. It's kind of clunky. It's kind of heavy load. It's not as streamlined as what's doing currently on now. It's no longer being developed. That's a huge reason. And it has difficulty connecting to services and data sources because what was done in 2013 is not what's done now. So there's a lot of new ways to use modern technologies and forms design that I hope there's no more tricks in here. Maybe that's the only one. I don't know. Anyway, so InfoPath, I never know what I'm going to spec when I click the mouse here. So we'll see how this goes. All right. So even if InfoPath was not being phased out, you would still want to move off it to take advantage of mobile, cloud, modern UI, portals, AI services. So even if they were saying, hey, even if they were going to go InfoPath 2022 or something like that, which they aren't, you would want to move off it because you want mobile, cloud, you want all these capabilities in your applications. You got to move off it. And the time is now. I mean, we've been saying this for 3 years, and Microsoft even made an announcement like 2018. There's a quote: "Time to move off is now." That's 3 years ago. April of 2018 was that quote. So it's time to get going, and we can help you do it. So about replacing InfoPath? We'll go through some kind of rules here, and then we'll get into showing some stuff on Nitro Studio. So for rule number 1 is to stop creating InfoPath forms. You're just digging yourself deeper and deeper and having more transitions, more trouble later when you do the transition, which is inevitable that you're going to have to do that because it's not only old technology, it's also going to be no longer supported. It's just time to move off it. Why hold you back? So first thing is stop creating InfoPath forms if at all possible. I know someone comes to you and says, hey, I need this done. Can you automate this process? Well, it's time to say, no, we're moving off to another solution, hopefully Nitro Studio, and we'll be creating forms in that from now on, so hold your horses. What about, and people also ask this question about automatically transferring, like there's some magic button you can push, InfoPath becomes whatever the new solution you have in it, and there isn't, new solution, the new modern cloud-based mobile-friendly solution in Office 365 or the latest SharePoint. Well, not really. There is no magic button you can do. The forms, the UI of the InfoPath forms has been such an older technology that it's really not feasible to export it out and have it convert into a new form. Numerous vendors have tried that. We've tried it. We've worked with people. It's been a discussion, among vendors like us on how to do it. Is it possible? And some people did something kind of, what it comes out is very clunky, and you end up spending more time fixing the clunky, not well done, form that comes out, kind of like missing, everything's kind of sort of a mess, and you end up spending so much time fixing it that you might as well just start it from new. Plus, the other point is, if you're going to do a form, convert it to a new system, why try to retrofit an old technology into a new technology? There's some things you can do, like in Nitro Studio, for example, that you can't do in InfoPath, and there's more capabilities as the technology evolves. Now, if we're talking about data of the forms, that's a different story. The data sits in a SharePoint list or some similar place, and it can be exported through some tools. We have partners we work with for data exports, and it can be imported. It doesn't move the form over or anything or the workflows, but it does move the data. A lot of people take the data out, store it in a database or some kind of SharePoint list, just keeping it there for reference, archival purposes, but they don't, and then they start greenfield with the new system. So it can be done either way. You can export the data out, create a new SharePoint list, then put the forms and workflows on top of that data, or you can just start greenfield. It really is depending on your situation. The workflows is like forget about it kind of thing, because the workflows that are created inside of InfoPath, there's no way really to export them out and translate them to new modern workflows inside of the newer solutions like our Nitro Studio or whatever other solution you're using. The workflows have to be recreated. And also, all of this gives you a time to refresh the form, to say, what does this process do? Do we need to do it the same way? Is there different elements, UI elements in the form? Are there different workflows and things we want to implement right now? So it really gives you a time to, it's a good thing not being able to replicate or automatically transfer it out. So let's move right along to that. And we talk about some kind of transition path. None of this is in stone, but it kind of gives you an idea of where you go with moving from off InfoPath to modern solutions. So one of the first steps is know what you have in place. Next is to look at what you have in place and don't replicate the stuff you don't need in the new system that's no longer being used. That's no longer a value to the company. There's no sense replicating it at all, of course. And then you can consider alternatives. Do you really need to build a new form from scratch, or you can use one of the pre-existing applications, such as one of our business applications, to fulfill the purpose that form served to begin with. And then you go ahead and implement it. So we'll run through a little bit of that, then we'll get into the Nitro Studio demo a little bit more. So if we're talking about cataloging the forms, it sounds a little fancier than it really needs to be. It's really just know what you have there. If you only have one or two forms, it's not that elaborate. You can just list out what you have, what it does, who uses it, that kind of thing. And it gives you some, not only the form, but also this metadata about the form, which I said, like who's using it, when was the last time it was used, just to give you a sense of what's the value or to the business of this form, of this process that's being, is it something that desperately needs to be implemented, going to have a critical functionality, or is it something that's kind of, used by a few people and it can be more slowly migrated, or, just whatever the process is to get it over there. So if you have good records, or if you know what they are, you can just easily list them, but you also use these PowerShell scripts. We have some scripts, and I can send you these links if you're interested. We've done this before. You export out with PowerShell, it comes out into a spreadsheet, something like this. That's one example, whatever fields you can get from the InfoPath. This company had a lot of InfoPath forms. You can see a zillion of them. And they were able to export it out with PowerShell and then create a catalog in that way. So what we do is, when you have this list of forms that you're going to convert, InfoPath forms, you can put them in the spreadsheet or project management tool. And because we ran into this quite a bit, we developed our project manager tool into an InfoPath replacement manager, so you can have status, notifications, approvals, and all these other things, and keep everybody informed and see the progress. So I'll show you that briefly right here, what that tool looks like. Where is it here? InfoPath replacement tool, this one right here. So I'll bring it over to the screen here. This is just an example of what it looks like. These are all those, when you take that spreadsheet, that catalog, you can import it into the InfoPath Replacement Manager. This is one of our Nitro Studio business applications, a modification of our project tracker, specifically for the InfoPath replacement project. Some people use it, some go with spreadsheets. It depends. But you saw like that large spreadsheet. It's good to have it organized system for managing the projects of each form. Replacement becomes a project, sort of a project in and of itself with subtask and who's responsible and all that. So you see project name, is it budgeted, who's the client, what department, sub-project. One interesting thing I think here is you can get a lot of the InfoPath form details right here in the project. You can also look at the form images. So you'll get the old image and you look at the new image. So when people are looking like, oh, do we approve this new implementation of the Nitro Studio form or whatever tool you're using, versus the InfoPath form, you can see it right in real time just by simply looking at this is what it looked like in InfoPath, and this is what it looks like in Nitro, just as an example. And people can say, make comments and work on it that way. So it's a pretty cool tool for that if you've got a large number of InfoPath forms and you want to manage it in that way. And it really has become a useful way for people to manage an InfoPath replacement project can be quite extensive, involving a lot of resources. So it's a way to use that for that tool for that purpose. So we provide that. Just want to let you know on that. Let's see. So we're moving right along here. I talked about InfoPath Replacement Manager. And if you're interested in that, just get in touch with us. We'll show you more on it. Then once you have the catalog in place, what you want to do is go here. Okay, is look at each form, eliminate the unnecessary forms and determine, what's going to take to replace the existing ones. And you can look at them. Okay, first of all, talk about unnecessary forms. That's really kind of subjective in some ways. I guess you can look at back how many times it's been logged in, who's using it, talk to the department that's using it, and get a sense of like, look, if we can eliminate the work of replacing this form, that's great. That's a big plus, right? And so, you can also look at the ones that do remain of the ones you didn't eliminate, and then look at how complex they are, how critical they are, what customizations are required, what modifications, enhancements. So it gives you a way to kind of a path to kind of like, look, okay, this form we're going to take and we're going to modify it this way, or we find people are doing mobile more now, or this process has been changed. We interact with our vendors differently than we used to, or whatever, so we can make modifications to it as we go along. So it's just looking at what kind of effort is required, and we can help you with all that. That's why we say we've done this a lot, and replacement experts here, because we have a lot of experience in what people run into. So, but we do also have this idea of you can consider some alternatives like a pre-built application. Well, if a pre-built application is going to do what you need to have done, whether in SharePoint on-premises or Office 365, then maybe one of these would fulfill the need without needing to go through the whole rigmarole of replacing a form, rebuilding it, and all that. So it depends. One thing we can do a lot with our request manager tool, particularly, it's kind of more of a generic tool, and it can be modified for just about any kind of request management system, because it has all the elements of request management. You can send emails in and have it converted to a request, or you can use a portal. We're even on Office 365, we're using Teams now, and we're also using bots to generate the initial request and respond to the request. And if you're interested in bots, there's a webinar. I'm doing a webinar in 2 weeks from today, same time, and I will give you more information about that. In this webinar, I'm not going to go too deep into bots because it's actually a really cool technology, but it would take, it would eclipse the rest of the webinar. I do want to mention that Request Manager does have that. So the Request Manager has all these ways of UI to enter in a new ticket, a new request, manage that request, approve the request, whether it's email, bots, portals, or in SharePoint itself. And then all the workflows of approval and fulfillment and all that are pretty standard. It depends what you're doing. It could be an access request, a travel request, a reimbursement request, a request for information from HR, any kind of thing. The request manager can be adapted for that purpose. So sometimes getting the request manager, because that is a lot of what forms are about, is requesting something or access, requesting some access or requesting some purchase or whatever. But you can take a look at these and see if these would fit the need, and then you would no longer have the need to go build the form. So InfoPath form would be replaced by an application. But that's not always the case, and you want to build it yourself. So the thing to do after that is create the solutions that replace InfoPath. Okay, that's when we get into the Nitro Studio world. Nitro Studio was developed by us over the years as we built our applications. We started in SharePoint 2010, 2013, building web parts, add-ins, all those kind of things. Microsoft kept shifting the development environment, SPFX, sandbox solution. So now we're building them from technologies on SharePoint 2013, 2016, 2019, and in Office 365 and Teams. So whatever is the appropriate underlying technology used, SPFX or whatever, we're using that to build the web parts or the components of Nitro Studio. And we use that to power our applications and also to build custom solutions or replace InfoPath forms or Lotus forms and all that. So why use Nitro Studio? Well, it's a complete set of tools. It's not just forms, it's not just workflows, it's not just report, it's a whole suite of tools, and I'll show you that. It includes UI, UX elements, workflow and process elements, reporting and dashboards elements. We put together this whole set of tools because we've been doing applications in Crow Canyon for the last 22 years. I mean, we know this environment. We have thousands and thousands of customers who use our software. So all that knowledge and experience that goes into our set of tools that are required for building applications. And Nitro Studio is fully something that can be fully used to build an application on the Office 365 or SharePoint environments. No code solution. There is some low code elements. If you want to inject some JavaScript or CSS, you can, but it basically you can do most everything with no code through UI interfaces. It's low cost, relatively low cost. I mean, it's not free, but it's relatively low cost, easy to use. We have training resources. I say that right here, extensive training resources. James, who gives workshops at once or twice a month. We have a forum. We have a lot of tutorials out there. We have the crowcanyon.help is our site for help. And it's ideal for InfoPath replacement projects. So if you want a demo of it or something, just get in touch with us and we'll give you a one-on-one. But I'll go through some of it right now. In this webinar. We have about a half an hour or more. So time to get started is now, as we always say about InfoPath replacement. We're saying it for 3 years, 4 years now, ever since. And now is even more now, if there's such a thing. Now is even more pertinent now, or whatever, more imperative to move off of InfoPath. And hopefully that's why you joined this webinar, is to get some experience in it and talk to us about it and get your project moving along to do that. It does take some work to get off InfoPath. It takes some consideration and working with a company like ours who knows what it takes and has the tools to help you will give you a big advantage, a big leg up on it. So again, just mentioning the point that we have it in 2013, 2016, 2019. I think I've said that enough. Office 365 and Teams. We got to add Teams. Well, Teams are part of Office 365, but it's good to kind of pull out the Microsoft Teams element also. And modern or classic UI. And modern would be in Office 365 or classic in 365. Anyways, it's saying that it's very mobile friendly, it's cloud friendly. If it's on premises, it can be just secure within your environment. If it's an Office 365, whatever way you want to slice and dice it, we made it fit that situation. Also, I want to mention here, in Office 365, we run in the GCC also, the government cloud. GCC, we do a lot with the California government, being a small business, certified small business with California. We also work with the federal government. We're doing a lot with military units. We're doing a lot with cities, counties, states, as well as the federal government across the U.S. as well as other countries. We work with Ireland, some government entities in Ireland, Canada, UK. So, if you're in the government, I know GCC only applies to U.S. government, but we have government solutions. I did want to point out that we're in the GCC if the government community cloud for people in the government, Office 365. So I said we have forms, workflows, reporting, portals, all these different elements. I won't belabor this. I think some of this I can probably get right into the demo pretty soon, but I think the point of this slide was to point out that people ask, does your forms tool have this? Does your form tool have that? Can you do this? Can you do that? I listed a few of them here, but if you have any questions like, hey, this can be done in the tool I'm using, InfoPath, can you do it there? We'll address that question and speak to you specifically about it. But we have dynamic forms, we have responsive mobile design. You can take a form template and go from one site list to another. You can do, of course, there's linked items and repeating rows. That's a very critical part of it. Custom actions and workflows, any buttons you can put on the form that initiate actions that move the business process along. We have portals, database integration. That's something we're doing a lot with these days. People seem in Office 365 especially wanting to go more and more into like SharePoint or Office 365 is a component of the larger enterprise systems that they're doing. We connect to a SQL database or ERP or financial system. So we're doing a lot with that. And of course, e-signatures are important for a lot of purposes inside. And this Teams thing's down here just to show that we also have a lot of Teams integration going on from our workflows and custom actions. You can initiate, you can send messages to channels, you can post adaptive cards and channels in Teams. It's of course an Office 365 Teams function, but just want to keep pointing that out when I can. The workflow manager is able to build simpler or complex workflows. The custom actions is more buttons that run on the form and then initiate these workflows, and it's used to automate many processes. Of course, the common ones like approvals, escalations, auto assignment, task management, notifications, scheduling reports, document generation, integration with external systems. I mean, you know, this we try and cover as much as we can. At the same time, we listen to our customers. You come to us and say, hey, can it do this? Or we need this done, or we have this, you know, unusual situation, and then we'll see what we can do either to adapt Nitro Studio to do that, or there may be already that capability inherent in the program itself. So it's something where if it doesn't see it listed here or in the forms, you know, talk to us. So we are very much personal and engaged with our customers. They're very, of course, the lifeblood of the company, but also it's just where, you know, we're in the same crowd. We're also working on business process, collaboration, Office 365. You know, we're struggling with the same things you are, or we're working with the same things you are to get these tools that Microsoft provides to function as efficiently as best possible for your organization to drive efficiency and productivity, or if you're a nonprofit to increase the services to your customers, or government to the citizens, whatever. You know, we're here to, we're on the same train, I hope, you know, so let's work together on it. Now, Nitro Studio also has many other components, and I'll show you the screen in a moment, but just go over it quickly. The portals, the dashboards, AI services like bots and natural language processing. We have formatting of lists, roll-up of lists. We have email capabilities, modern UI, print manager, and a lot of other things here. So this is what I mean about a complete set of tools for application development. Okay, this is about uncommon workflow. So that means that this is where I cut off from this and go over to Nitro Studio itself and start to show you some of the Nitro Studio in action here. So let's look at the Nitro Studio itself to start with. When you install, how it works is this: when you install, you know, of course, you're in SharePoint, so you have sites and site collections and everything else. So you install Nitro Studio in your tenant or your farm, and then it's available to whatever site or site collections you want to make it available for, simply by activating it. So there's an admin home. I won't go into that, but there's an admin home where you can activate Nitro and manage your license and subscription to it and activate it for each site. In this case, Nitro Studio has been activated in this site called Expense Reimbursements. I put this together last night. It's just a sub-site I created in this site collection called Trial One. For some reason, the name of it is Travel Request, supposed to be Expense Request. But anyway, the name of the site is up here. And then I'm in this list called Expense Reimbursements that I put together just to see for this webinar what can be done. So I found this form online. Here it is, an expense form, InfoPath form. This is a kind of lousy, what do you call it, imaging with a lot of fuzziness, but that's what I found. And said, okay, this is InfoPath, right? This is what's done in InfoPath right here. So, you know, it's like one of those Google images you find if you search for InfoPath. So that's interesting. Let's see what I can do. So I had, you know, a few hours last night. So I just said, let's see when I get ready for this webinar when I can show everybody. So it's kind of fun. I said, can this be done in Nitro? And this is the kind of challenge that we enjoy here. And James does a lot of this too, and some of our team. We take these InfoPath forms or other forms and say, can we do that in Nitro? And then it's kind of fun to see what we can do. So that was my fun last night. I know other people have other things they do, but that's what I do. So I don't know, whatever, right? Not every night, but sometimes. Especially if I'm getting ready for a webinar. So here it is in Nitro, right? Kind of nice, huh? So let me show you that form in InfoPath again. You know, it has this header at the top. It has this black line. It has report dates. You know, I don't know if I would do the expense form exactly like this, but my challenge was to replicate it, you know, as much as possible. Now, I said that you don't, you know, one of the things about replicating forms, you don't have to replicate exactly what InfoPath looks like. You have the freedom to decide if it still needs to do that. But just as a challenge, you know, to say, can this be done in that, right? that's an interesting challenge to have. So I took this and made up this inside of Nitro Studio here, and it came up with this. Look, right? This is on a SharePoint list. There's a SharePoint list behind it, and it will the SharePoint list holds the data, and there, of course, there's workflow. I mean, I didn't add the workflow, so I just did this. I just put the UI together, but the workflows would, send this to the manager and all that. So let's work on this a little and see what happens. This is a new form came up, and how is this done in Nitro Studio? We're going to take a look. So we have these dates, we have the personal information, we have itemized list. This is a repeating rows kind of thing that you can add different expenses to. It accumulates the total expense cost here, and all that. So let's go look at how this is done in Nitro Studio. So I could either go through to Nitro Studio by going here. Oh, that's wrong. I don't know. Okay. Well, whatever that was, I don't know. But I go to Nitro Forms right here, or I could go through the Nitro Studio, Nitro Forms, and go here. Now you notice there's not only Nitro Forms, there's workflows, reports, portal, and all these many other tools we have here, right, going on. These all can be utilized to make your application work the way they are. One of the main ones are forms and workflows and custom actions, because that's really the UI, that's the workflows, that's the actions that take place, the business process, in other words. So let's look at the Nitro form here for this list, which is the expense forms list. And we go here, we're going to Nitro Studio. It's easy to use, and it's very capable. I mean, this is something that I think anybody who's into this kind of power user, kind of development, you find a lot of value with this. And once people get into it, they get very enthusiastic and start really enjoying what they can do with it to make the forms for their company look how they need to look and perform the way they need to form. So what we have going on here is the form in our forms designer. Our form designer has, a ribbon at the top. It has different elements on the left. It has settings for each section that you happen to be in, or each form each tool you happen to be in. Column has different settings you can do. A lot of different settings you can do. Now, this webinar is not meant to be a deep dive into Nitro Studio. I could spend the next hour or so and have everybody watch me revise this form, and and it's kind of interesting. But we're really talking about just kind of whet your appetite with this and say like, well, look, this tool is really useful. We hope it is, and we hope that you find it that way. Okay, one thing I want to do right here is edit this, and I want to make this default. This is just a standard SharePoint thing, no big deal, but I want to default to today's date. So you can see right from the form designer itself, I'm changing the column settings as if I went to list settings. This one is kind of interesting. We have an autofill capability. Well, why do you want the person to type in all their information here? So I'd go here, actually I go right here to form settings and go to autofill user information. Based on the user information here, we're going to do a new setting, and we're going to have it autofill based on the user column of name. Fill in that name with the logged in user, and we're going to map the different fields such as department to the property of department, and we're going to map the property of email to the email address. These are pulling from SharePoint profile or Azure Active Directory, depending on what you want to do. And then we're going to do the phone also here and pull from the phone. And then we have, and if I had ID, I don't think I have ID going, but if I had ID, I could do that also, and we'll do okay. So now when I just go ahead and I can either preview the form here, it shows you preview in a different desktop, tablet. Okay, we want to preview the new form, and we're going to do it in the desktop, tablet, or a mobile phone. So we're going to cancel that, but we can also publish it. So if we publish it, it's going to put it into that list we were just in, and you can put notes of what version you're publishing and all that if you want. And now when the form comes up, it will have report date and the information filled in. Cross my fingers, April Fools, who knows, but that's what it should do. Let me refresh it and make sure it's getting the latest version of the form and see if it actually does that when I do a new one. So now it's filling in the date and my information right here, right? So I'm logged in as admin account, phone, IT, email, ID. I don't think I have that. I could do another property that fills that in, but I don't want to take up a lot of time for that, but that's something that could be done right here. So it's auto filling in this information, kind of interesting. Over here, you can create a new item. of your expenses. This is just an example expense report. You do a description, travel to Hawaii, trip to Hawaii. The date was anyone gone to Hawaii lately? I don't know. I hear some people. They went through the 22 through the date, that's the date they returned, let's say, and the cost was, I don't know, $572 or something like that. The category is travel. So he saves it, right? And now it's listed right here. Now the person comes in and says, okay, I want to add another expense, and the expense would be luau in Hawaii. And so that was on the same day. He was there doing a luau, and the cost was $250. And that was because he was engaging the client, you know, trying to entertain the client through a luau. I don't know, whatever. So then it comes up the total expenses right here, right? So you see, like, if you know, you're doing repeating rows, you're adding, you could edit it, you could delete it, you can do whatever you want, and now you've got 822, and that number is used. And when I would build this form out with just really not that much more work, maybe I put a button here or some button down the bottom that says submit or save, and then it goes through the approval process and goes into you know, whatever process it is. Well, one thing you'd want on this, should I save this? I think I'll cancel it and go a manager. If you notice on our form over here, we have a manager field, manager information. You built in a separate box. I probably put it under personal information, but right now it's under manager information. So you say, okay, well, that's a very important part of the situation here is to have a manager box. So let's just do that to show you what can be done. We want to just put the manager's name in there. Again, I don't know if I would do it exactly this way. I'd probably just put manager as another row in this table right here, but let's go do this just to have some fun with it. We're going to put a table in right here. We're going to go here and put a table in right here. And we're going to, it's just one cell. When you put a table in, you can have table properties and put a border around it, outside border, width of 3, color of black, and it's a solid border, 255,000, and a solid border gives you that. And then you have to go here and create a column. You can easily create a column right from the form designer here, and we'll call it manager, and that will be a person or group column. You don't have to add it to the default view. Go here, do okay, and now if I go over here and search for manager, whatever, it's going to manger. Oops, oh well, I think I can change that. So let's go here and put manager in right here, or as we say, manger. No, manager. I gotta change that to manager. Oops. But the interesting thing about this is that even if I wanted to, I could override the display name and put in some other name like your manager. You know, I mean, so much you can do with this. And again, I would spend a huge amount of time here doing this if was a night. We did the Nitro Studio 101 like a few weeks ago, and we have a lot of tutorials on it to really, but really, if you want to dig into this stuff, you would be glad to help you. We have a lot of fun with this. So there it is, your manager, whatever. I mean, it's kind of basic. I could do more with it. I could go here to the cell properties and change the alignment of this, horizontal, vertical of the column width. The label position could be horizontal or vertical. The label can be, let's make this size 16 to match the other ones. That's what the other one is. And the color of black. So you can do amazing amounts of adjustment of the form to be how you want it to be. So now it says your manager, and I think I go back here and just not override that anymore because manager's good enough, right? So manager right there. And so the manager is now on that. And what I'd want to do right here is put a little spacer in. So I put a spacer in there. And now what is that space? Well, there's another one right here. If I go to this line HTML, copy this. I know I'm doing everything very quickly because it's not meant to be a tutorial on Nitro Forms, but I want to show you that it's not that hard to make these changes and have everything look the way you want. So I'll go here, publish, and confirm the publishing of this. Now we have a manager field here. One last thing we want to do is go back to our autofill settings here under form controls, form settings, go to autofill, and we're going to add on a new setting. No, we're going to edit the existing setting, and we're going to add on manager. New mapping could be a manager column, and it's now the manager property. I believe this is manager. Yeah, it says there, so it must be. So let's see if that does. Okay, and publish it. You know, obviously I do this a lot and know how to do it, but it's not that hard. It's not that far being. I mean, it's once you get familiar, and we do have some training, it's very easy to pick it up. And then all the embellishments and the enhancements and the fancy stuff, it can come, and you can do a lot. You find you can do a lot with it. Now let's see if the April Fool's gods are with me and are not with me, I guess, and got me my manager thing up. Yeah, there's manager right there. So I don't think I have a manager under admin account, otherwise it would show up. But there it is right there. I just added that field right in. See, pretty easy. And I could do it a little differently or modify it. So that, I just wanted to kind of show you that quickly. You know, a few minutes. We got this form going. We got interesting things going on with the form. Then you can put buttons up here to submit, like I said. So now the next thing here, where is it? Rather than keep building on this form called expense reimbursements, I was going to move over to a form where it's kind of like my playground, you could say, called access requests. This is one I've done a lot with over many demos. So it's a lot of like many artifacts of Nitro Studio in here. So it's fun to show this one. And even though no one, I think, would realistically do a form like this, but it's one of the things, you ever do like something you just want to kind of like, you know, have a place you can kind of fool around with stuff and make things do all kinds of fun stuff. So this is kind of my Nitro Studio playground. And I do a lot of stuff with this. So here, let me show you some of the things that can be done with it. We talk about dynamic forms. This is an imaginary access request. That could be used, but it's an access request form. You're asking for access to something. What type of access you want to add? You want to add it. So when you want to add, it develops this dynamic. It adds this dynamic element called date of access, perpetual or temporary. Let's you know, make sure that the end date is after the start date, or it's perpetual. And you can modify it, disappears because you don't need the information anymore. Other things that happen here, if you choose a database, these are cascading lists. So database tells you a subset of a sub list. You know, they're cascading. So if I choose application, it's going to give me a different list. If I choose network, it's going to give me another list. It's simple cascading. You know, nothing too fancy. Cascading lookups everywhere, right? Everybody has that. So you go SQL. And because I've chose SQL, this tab shows up. Now, this tab right here, watch, between requester and task, if I choose something else, it doesn't show up. It's gone. So if I choose Oracle, Oracle shows up, Oracle info, right? So let's go back to SQL. So, you know, dynamic forms, just showing you dynamic forms is kind of cool. Another part of the dynamic is employer or contractor. Well, is this access for an employee or is it for a contractor? Well, if it's an employee, you have the name, you type in, it does a lookup. Again, you can put that autofill information and have it like the phone number, department, and all those other things. Or you can do it by a contractor, an outside company, and now you want to get the name from a database or from a SharePoint list or somewhere, and you can go here and it's going to be, you put in information about that customer. See, it's all kinds of things you can do with that to make it very dynamic. Again, on the requester tab, this is where we have the autofill again, like I was showing you earlier. On SQL tab, because I chose database SQL, you put the server, the name, and then who the manager is shows up, and that will start a process where it'll send that message to the manager saying that you know, this person is asking for access, add, modify, or revoke access to a certain database for this employee or this contractor or whatever, and the person can go through an approval process. Now, approval could be multi-level, it could be simple, it could be auto approval, and all kinds of things going on. Just wanted to show that. Another element of Nitro Studio that we added is this kind of idea that you can have these very simple show hide kind of elements going on, you know, for sections. Again, the task element where you're adding repeating rows just by adding more. We have an e-signature aspect. You can sign it, you know, blah, 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 and then have that become part of the form. You can do all kinds of fancy things with the buttons, you know, and other elements. I was just playing around here. So it's a lot you can do. So mainly it's like, I could show you a lot of things, but it's like, what do you need done in your form? You know, it's not just, I mean, it's fun to play around, but also what is going to perform the most functional elements of your form, right? And then I've also shown how you can do all these different tables and things. In fact, if you go back to the Oracle, if I go back to Oracle and get the Oracle tab up, you know, it's filling out this description, you know, making a table like this. It's also, I mean, you can do a lot of things with this forms designer. That's again done in access request system in the forms, the access request form. All those stuff is going on in our forms designer. This request form, right? So, you look at your InfoPath form, you say what it has in it, you get used to using Nitro Studio, and then it's easy to just modify and make it look exactly the way you need it to look. Here's all the elements, and then you would go monkey around with this to make it do what you need to do, whether layouts and themes, aside, whether it's the form controls, whether it's the actions, all that. One thing about this one that's kind of interesting, we split up the new edit display. There's 3 different forms. On the display form, we added some custom actions. Now, custom actions, these will display on the form. Let me go back to the access request system, cancel this, and open up one that exists already, and look at the this one and see about these buttons that show up, called our custom actions buttons that show up. Here they are: escalate, assign to self, submit for approval. All of our buttons that we put on the form, on the display version of the form. This one has some stuff filled in. Here's the grid with some different color patterns. Here's a signature, there's an attachment. We generate document, can generate a document and put the attachment on. But let's look at the custom actions in a little more detail. There's all these custom actions up here. So where are we on this? So this escalate, what does escalate mean? What does it do when you press it? Well, over here is our custom action called escalate. And if we go look at the custom action, we'll see that what escalate does. Escalate could have any number of other actions under it. So if we look at it here, escalate, any custom action is either one or more other actions in it. So looking down at the bottom as what actions are in this one, these are the actions to execute when that button is pushed. We get who the vendor is, we set the priority to high, we email it to me, we update some things in SQL, I mean, all these things going on just by that escalate process right there. So what this means is that you can show a box that shows when the database is SQL, it's going to ask the user who do you want to send it to, who do you want to assign it to. You're escalating, but who do you want to assign it to? When it's not, it'll automatically assign it to somebody else. So all these, I mean, without digging too much into this, there's a range of actions that can be done by any custom action. A number of these in sequence. You can add to a list. You can add a list item. Create a new list item. You can update existing item, or other item is used quite often to change priority, change the assignment, make some note of the status, add to the work log, whatever. You can upload documents, generate documents, send an email that's like notifications and alerts. You can run a script. You can run a web service. You can invoke other workflows, including Power Automate stuff. You can query the list to get information that's used in a later action. You get the information about the vendor, then use it to send the email or something like that. You can invoke other custom actions. So you have this, I mean, this is details that are really cool and sort of get a little into the geeky world, but they really are, the point is to make it so that you can build the business process you need using Nitro Studio. Here's a little bit about the Teams integration right here. Post an active card and all that. So from the one action button, the one button of escalate, or whatever button, all these things can happen. It's actually pretty cool. And the same with the other buttons here. There's like there's one called assign to self or submit for approval. So you're developing all these workflows just by having these buttons on here that people can push. Now, when you look at the access request system itself, there are these buttons can also show up here. And this is a modern UI look. We can work in the classic a little differently, but that's the modern UI look. They show up here, or they can show up if you're in the access request system itself. I don't know, that's some weird thing that look at it, Anyway, so here we are. It shows up in the ECB right here. Escalate is right here. The edit control block is what I'm talking about. There's 3 dots, So you can also add it there. So there's many places it can show up. Also up here, and if you're in classic view, it can show up in the items. Escalate up here. So you have many options to give to your user depending on what you need to move the business process along. Okay. So again, like just in the last 10 minutes or so, there's many other things I can show you here. One quick thing I'll show you, just try and take a couple minutes on that, is that we have this portals, and with portals, you can go in and make up a portal as a way to interface the user's interface with the application. And in the portal, we have a number of web parts, modern UI web parts that we add. Let's get this bigger. Let's go Crow Canyon, advanced. This is like a little different than it used to be, but there's a way to see all the, here they are. Here's all the Crow Canyon ones right here. So in advance, there's, we have about, I think 10 or 12 different web parts for modern UI that can be added to a portal to make it look what you want. You might want to add your list, your list view. So, you see your list in the portal. You want to create a ticket in the portal. You want to see a report in the portal. All those things can be done through our modern UI web part. Just showing you one other aspect, that the portals can be developed as a way to engage with the people, okay, and your users to engage with the application. And the other last thing I wanted to show before we get into some questions, it's just a little bit about the bots. Here's a bot running, you say, in Teams. See, we're in Teams. I'm jumping around a little, I know, because I just want to cover two quick things. One is you can run in SharePoint. Everything works fine there. You can use a portal interface with the modern or classic UI, or you can use bots. And this is something I'll do in 2 weeks in much more detail, is to show you what this bot does. It does all kinds of approval processes and things, and you can do a lot with the bot. And this is just a teaser really to show you that the bot can provide you with a list of options that will give you tools that you can, you set all this up in our Nitro bot. I'll show you this in a couple weeks if you're interested. You set all this up in our Nitro bot, and then you decide, okay, in the help desk, I want to submit a ticket, or I want to search a knowledge base, or in Project Tracker, I want to create a new project or create tasks. In the purchase request, I want to search purchase requests. I mean, it's all kinds of things you can do with the bot, but just to showing you that if I'm in this person and I submit it, it's going to go to the other person's bot here. This is James, and he's going to be able to add a note. I mean, all these things can go on in the bot. I think I'm going to have to rush through that and just kind of like say, okay, it's not enough time to go give this justice, to do the bot justice. It's really cool. In 2 weeks, we'll have it up. We'll have a webinar. I mean, we already have this up, but have a webinar and show you all the ins and outs of the bot and what it can do and how it's enhancing people's Office 365 experience through using our applications inside of Teams with the bot and other ways. So now what I want to do is I could, open up for questions. I know I could go a lot more into all these other tools, the workflows, the reports, the portals, but there's so much in here. Just want to convince people, or like suggest strongly to people that this is a very good contender for your InfoPath replacement projects. And we'd love to hear from you about what your needs are and what you want to see inside of what you need inside of your InfoPath replacement. Okay, so James, any questions that way I can address?
Yeah, we had a question about reporting. Is reporting possible on the data that's stored in the form?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, okay, I'll get off of this. It's 2 weeks from today, that one. So let me go out of here and go to reports. We have a report center. Let me see if the access request system has a report center set up. I'm not sure.
We might not have report center, but you can get to it through the Nitro. You can just go to Crow Canyon Nitro apps and go. Oh yeah, we do have it. Look at that. Hey.
Yeah, there's a report center here, and items. I don't know. It's you can build reports like this, tables, charts, and then if you want to go to our report tool itself, where you go in and manage it, you create the reports here, create a new report, edit an existing report, and you could build all these fancy reports. And then you can stick the reports on a dashboard page, a modern UI portal page, a classic UI portal page, a dashboard. You can also, once the report, here's a preview of it, but also, let me go back to Report Center. When you do have a report available, you can also schedule reports too. Remember that, James? You can schedule them. But once you have this here, you can export to PDF, you can save it as an image, you can email it, you can print it, you also can do real-time filters right here. So if you wanted to send it out as an email, you can just go ahead and send the email. It's attached report, it comes in attachment. Attached report is PDF, it goes out to, I guess I don't have to send it, but there it is. So yeah, reporting and these can be put together into dashboards. I don't think I did a dashboard for this one, but some of our other programs have those dashboards where there's a lot of, this is kind of like it. Let's look at it this way, project overview. This might be a good example of it. Of reporting. Here's some reports loading, just putting these together and something like that. All right, well, it's not the best example, but we have the tiles and dials, we have reports, but the idea is you can put all these information as a dashboard for users to take a look at. Okay, so I hope that answers the question. Anything else going on, James? Question?
There's a question about the licensing of the applications versus for Nitro.
Yeah, okay.
We can get back on that if we need to.
Yeah, a Nitro application is one site, and it's licensed. Nitro Studio is licensed in that site as well as the application is licensed in that site. So you get the full Nitro Studio for that one site. But if you want to move beyond to use Nitro Studio either throughout the whole tenant or farm or other sites, or you want other applications, those would be additional licenses. And we have a tenant-wide license based on number of users. A farm is based on WFEs, web front end servers. So we can talk about pricing with anyone who's interested and see what's involved. I'd be glad to have that discussion. But yeah, okay. What else?
We also have a question about publishing the form to resources that can't log into the network.
No, the form runs inside of Office 365. Now, if you want people outside of your company outside of your organization to use our applications, we have a portal form. You still have to log in for it, but usually what we do in that case, you can create either use email, but that's not a form, of course, or you use like a web form. A web form could be used, and that would be submitted. It depends if you want the customers to log in and have a form, then they are in a sense guest users in your organization. When they log into your Office 365 environment, like an extranet, then they would have access to those forms, or a portal form version of that form, because we have the portal forms and we have the Nitro forms. Nitro forms sit inside of the SharePoint site, and people with permissions to that site are able to use the form, of course. But the portal site you can have a replication of the form. We have this way of replicating the form out to a portal site. The portal site is a separate site, and it gives a security wrapper around that site that you only allow those guests, or internal employees for that matter, but usually guests, external guest users, to that one site. And they don't have access to the back-end SharePoint site, only through the portal. The portal serves as a security proxy so that they're using this form inside of the portal. They're creating tickets or requests, or whatever they're doing. They're viewing their own through the portal. They maybe search the knowledge base even, or do other things, whatever, or give them documentation, whatever they need to do inside the portal for your engagement with that client. But the actual data is kept securely in a different site that they don't have any access to. It's only through this kind of security bridge from the portal site to the back-end site that the data passes back and forth. So that's I hope that addresses the question and makes some sense. If not, we can talk about it more. What else there, James?
And also noticing one of our participants has their hand raised. I don't know if they can go ahead and type in the question, or wasn't sure if you wanted me to unmute them and let them ask their question.
Yeah, if they want to ask directly instead of typing it in, that's fine with me.
Okay. Let's see.
The webinar is being recorded. Yeah, I meant to say that at the beginning, and we'll have it available.
Yeah. Data
stored in the SharePoint list, right? And we can connect to external databases too. I mean, I didn't show that at all, but that's why I didn't want to dig too deep into Nitro Studio forms, but we do have the external data column right here, as well as all these other capabilities here.
And for the participant with their hand raised, would you like me to unmute you, or you just type that into the questions box? I'm not sure if maybe they accidentally hit the hand raise thing, so I don't want to unmute them if they don't actually have a question.
Well, any question can be submitted to anybody can call us, send email, contact us. We're here to help. So glad to do that. Now, hopefully we're making a good case for InfoPath replacement with Nitro Studio here, that it is a superior tool and that Crow Canyon has all the experience needed to help you have a successful InfoPath migration or transition or replacement project going. And again, I want to emphasize, despite my goofy marketing department's announcement there, is that InfoPath is on its way. It's not only deprecated, its support is ending in July, mainstream support, and extended support doesn't really mean much. time to get off it and time to move, and we can help you do it. We'd be glad to jump in and participate with you in this move. Or if you want to prefer just to take Nitro Studio, learn how to use it and go yourself, that's fine too. And we're here kind of in the background helping out more than the foreground. So it's whatever way you want to go about it. I just want to encourage you to do that. And also, if you're on SharePoint 2010, 2013 workflows on Office 365, you want to move off that too. So that's the case we're making here for our tool, and we'd be glad to talk to people more. James, any last questions, or are we good to go here?
I think we're good to go. We'll follow up with the individual afterwards anyway. Yeah, I think, okay, no, I think we're good on that one. So.
Okay, last slide.
Last
slide will be a contact info, so that we can show the contact info here. Where is it? Contact. Of course, here's our website. Has all this information on it, anyways. There it is. To learn more, I guess I can pop the display. Whatever. So here we are. You can call us. You can email sales@crowcanyon.com. Easy to remember. Crow Canyon, not crown. Crow, like the bird. Canyon.com. Request a demo on our site. And I want to thank everyone for taking the time today, an hour out of your day, to join us. And thank you, James, for helping with the setup and the questions. And the marketing team for being a little goofy with April Fool's jokes. So I hope everyone has a good day, and thank you again for attending. Any questions, let us know, and we hope to hear from you. Okay, bye-bye for now.